Alrighty, I think you can kind of see there. I don't have my tripod, so it's in a little different spot than normal. Ooh, man, it's hotter than the damn Spanish channel out there today. So I thought this would be a good time to explain, go over some of the things I've been talking about. Because I've been talking about a lot about having a bad back, about the golf swing, how to, swing properly with very minimum wear and tear on the body, yada yada. Essentially, I have a herniated disc in my back. I've had it for years and years. It's an old snowboarding injury, but I've heard it dirt biking, skateboarding, BMXing. But it's never hurt my golf swing. It's never hurt my back, my golf swing. And that's just simply from knowing how to get into the correct position. Like I promise you right now, I can't even get halfway to touching my toes. Climbing out of bed, I'm like, oh, I can't even do a crunch. My back is jacked up right now, but yet I can hit balls. I mean, I'm not gonna try to rip them or nothing. Try to go after them hard. Clean this, but I can still get decent distance. Honestly, more distance than a majority of people out there. Um, just from knowing how to use the club, like very effortless and just understanding. So this is a pitching wedge, 48-degree pitching wedge, pretty standard length. But what I really wanted to talk about is a misconception about getting open. So I've been talking about getting open. So essentially, at address, you're facing the ball. The camera's the ball. My chest, my hips are in line with the target line. But at impact, ideally any good player is open. Let's go this way. So at address, I'm aligned with it. At impact, I'm open to it. So if I were to be open here and take the same backswing, that's really steep versus facing the ball, that's shallow. That's why in order to just have a nice, back and down on the same path swing, you still kind of need to shallow. You still need to shallow a little bit to stay on that one plane for one. That's one thing I've talked about. But getting open doesn't mean you can get very, very open, basically as much as you physically can. Like I can get super open without lifting my foot up, without a ton of side bend, just by you basically turn to the top. Now I'm at the top of my backswing. Now I just open my body. Look, see how basically my arms are glued in this position? Like this is the top of my backswing right here. See, I'm here. I'm right here. Top of my backswing. Can stand up. I'm there. If I turn my body, how I'm not actually using my arms. I'm keeping them in the same position of my body. That's kind of the key is to just swing your body. My body is opening. It's kind of in my legs. I'm not just doing this. I'm not just twisting my hips. I don't want to do that. If anything, I want to keep the relationship between kind of my hips and my chest. Like I can do this and open my chest and leave my hips here, and then I'm twisting my spine. That's not what I want to do. I want these things to move together. See how my hips and my chest are moving together in the backswing? They get a little bit separated to start the downswing. I'm back at the ball, back square to the ball, and the club's only around here. And then I'm just going to keep going, keep going, keep going. Look how open I can get. My spine is in the same position it was at address, perfectly square. And I'm very open. I'm very open right there. And I don't have a ton of side bend. I don't have a ton, your spine can have side bend. That's okay. But really, the bat killer is when people are facing the ball at impact. Because what happens is if you stay here, you stay locked in on the ball, you end up having to throw the club. You end up standing up, your hips drive forward. See how my hips drive forward? Which basically your spine, right? Imagine an accordion. When your hips drive forward, it drives them up as well. So it kind of crunches your spine together every time you do that. But if you can just get here, you know what I mean? And just, I'm just turning my body. It's all in that lead side. And look where your low point wants to be also. When you're open like that, if I just get open because I haven't thrown my arms, I can do this. This is more than I would get in my real swing. But you see how far forward? That's up here. That's like a foot in front of the ball almost. Because I'm exaggerating a little bit. Very, very open. Versus if I'm back here, not as open, that's probably a little more realistic. I'm probably a little bit more here in my actual swing, a little in front of the ball. But if I'm back here, I'm facing the ball. Look where I'm 6 inches behind the ball. So I need to throw my hands at it, try to scoop it up in the air. I'm going to early extend. You want to take your arms out of the golf swing. I mean, yes, you use them. Yes, you use your hands, your arms, and your wrists, but you need to know how to use them and when. And there's really not a lot of movement. They're not moving much. Like you could basically get to the top and just stay in that position if you get to the top properly. I tried not to move my arms at all right there. That was just 100% get to the top, keep my arms in that orientation to my body. Very first swing of the day, pitching wedge. You can see center strike. And that's also how you develop consistency, because I'm using my big muscles. You can't not be just square and consistent like this. I'm just loading and I'm letting it fall. A big issue is people don't realize they might realize it, but there's a change of direction where everything's kind of, the club's floating. It's weightless for a second. You almost need to, just for a brief millisecond, kind of pause, not pause and stop and then go, but you don't want to try to throw, you're not trying to at the ball from the top. Like my only thought is, as the club is getting to the top, I'm just thinking about landing into my front foot. I just want to get all my pressure into the front foot and just come through. A little bit of a pull. I wasn't really trying all that hard. Second swing of the day. There it is. Let me actually try to hit a golf shot. You can see that one was flush. Healed the one before that, a little bit of a Healy pull cut. You want to see it. I was just so focused on what I was talking about, but the other two strikes were dead center. First, a little healer. Second swing of the day. But again, like I'm always focused on they talk about swinging around your spine. And I think that's kind of a bad thing because I feel like it gives the illusion of your hips are stationary and kind of the base of your spine, oh, thank you for turning back on, Light. You're kind of pivoting around the base of your spine. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more below your hips, your legs, your knees, your ankles. Your legs are kind of rotating because if you look, here at the top of my swing, my hips are about here, my shoulders are here. If I go back, if I were to have a club on my hips and a club on my shoulders, I go back, they're together. In the beginning, they might separate a little bit. My hips get a little bit of a head start, but then, I'm getting open, boom, they're square. They're basically square to one another. I don't want to be here. I can barely do that right now because my back's messed up. It's basically just coming back. And this is what it's meant by a one-piece swing. Everything's moving back and you're just, swinging through with your body. Boom. Let's see, where's that club? I know there it is. I've mentioned this before. I keep this old pitching wedge around, this old Nike wedge of mine. Set some school records with this wedge. But I keep a driveway or alignment stick in the shaft. This is a great drill because it forces you to do that. You have to kind of just swing with your body. You see how if I were to swing with my arms, it would just hit me. You see how I have to kind of get to the top and just, I can't let my arms outrace everything. I just have to kind of swing with it. So it's like wherever I turn my body, if my body's pointing at my hands, I'm going back, starting to land. There is a small bit of separation, but for all intents and purposes, it very much feels like everything's moving back and then down together. As I'm going, But a big part people miss is a lot of people either try to go back and they hang back trying to pick the ball up into the air, not understanding compression. You want to hit down on the ball. I'm sure you know that. You've played golf for more than a season. But where people go wrong a lot is they think it's everything back and then get way forward. And no, what happens is it's very similar to where is my wedge? I just had it. If I were to just, go like this, kind of rock back and forth, if you look, the club is still going up. It hasn't reached the top of the swing yet. In my body, I'm already moving forward. The club's about here. My body is starting to shift forward, and the club's still going up. Now, I'm already landing into that front foot because your body's it was way slower than the club. So I'm just, just getting into that front foot so I can pull. I'm just getting into that front foot so I can just. I mean, it's so easy. It's laughable once you get it. It's so effortless. Here, 48-degree pitching wedge, 130. That's a real smooth swing. Like, there's no reason an adult, male or even like a, 15, 16-year-old that's decently in shape shouldn't be able to hit a pitching wedge, 48-degree pitching wedge, 125, 130. If you can't, you shouldn't have to try that hard. There's like no effort in that. That just feels like gravity is swinging the club. Almost no effort at all. With the modern golf ball and the modern driver, same thing with the driver, 275, 280 is the same swing. It's such a smooth swing. If you're physically able and like a healthy male, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to, at least crack 250, hit a wedge 120, 125. It's just so easy. I mean, there are arms in it, but like I've said before, the arms are really, it's more of a this, this is about how much your arms are moving in the golf swing. Not that that's what I feel like I'm doing through impact. I'm just saying that's about how much arm movement there is. Because honestly, I think a big mistake through impact is people leave everything open so much. They don't know how to square things up because they're facing the ball. So they have to drive into it, early extend, and they have to flip and roll their hands through it. If you want to be good, you're never going to be good trying to sling the club closed through impact. My goal is, a 2-foot section at least, 2.5 foot section. I want that club face to be dead square to my body through that section, and the ball's in the middle, right? Honestly, I just feel like the club's square the whole time. I never feel like I'm opening the club. I never feel like I'm closing it. Because think about it. If I'm here, my club is square to me. Like if this hand right here is square to my chest, perpendicular to my chest, as the club face would be, square. If you do a proper backswing, let me go this way. If I go back properly, my hand and my club face, is still square to my chest. It hasn't really changed positions, from my address position. That's never opening. It's never closing. It's still in that same spot. There's a little bit of that's the little bit of a shallow. There's a little bit of a separation just as your body gets that head start to unload onto the ball. A little bit of a shallow. Just let it shallow with your wrist. Just let the weight of the club wants to shallow, which is going to counteract. Because if you don't shallow, you just start to open, it's going to want to come over the top. So you need to shallow to counteract that little bit of a over the top that it's going to want to do. And again, you can see, now I'm back to square at the ball. And I'm not trying to hit the ball now. I'm not staying here and driving forward and hitting the ball. No, I'm just going to keep on turning. And you can see if this is, representative of what was square to the club and square to my chest through impact. I just want to hold that face, I just feel like I'm holding it through square. square to that target line, or yes, square to the line, target. Sorry, all these are freestyles. Oh, did I show you the last strike? Was it good? Yeah. You can, I would always start slow, and you'll be amazed. A drill I've always really liked to do is try to swing, full swing as far as length of swing, nice rhythmic full swing, and try to look as smooth and slow as possible, but hit the ball far. Be real smooth, but still hit the ball a long way. And what you're going to learn how to do is use nothing as far as arms and hands, use nothing, and just a quick release through impact. But again, the release is, I want to release when I'm releasing. Most of the time, I just feel like I'm holding it off until after impact. So the face is just square. But when I release, I'm still just releasing like this. See, if I were to, see how if I release, this club is still square. Like I'm not doing this. I'm not rolling the club over. That's not a release. That's rolling the club over. I just imagine a little, 1 foot section with the ball in the middle or a dollar bill. Well, honestly, I actually take that back. I mean, I kind of do. In my mind's eye, what I like to imagine, oh, do I still have chalk? I like to imagine an imaginary line a lot of times in back of the ball with driver, but with a wedge or an iron. I imagine basically where I want my divot to begin. Like for a right-handed golfer, if I want to play a draw, the divot is going to be, out to the right a little bit. So I imagine I can just see my club head striking down on the golf ball, starting a divot, out to the right, compressing the ball. And you have to visualize all this before you do it. Like if I wanted to draw, I'd close everything, of course, but I'm imagining just right there, like where that divot's going to be. My eyes are still physically on the ball, but I can still kind of, just out of my peripheral vision, kind of see where I want that club to hit the ground. And I would just play a little draw, throw it out to the right, and bring her back. That one was a hair skinny, but centered. You can see it was a little off the bottom of the club face, but definitely was a draw. And just the opposite for a fade, if I'm trying to fade it, just open everything up slightly. And I just feel like that divot is kind of down to the left. Of course, with a draw, especially if I'm really trying to move it, it's a little bit of turning the face over. And with a fade, it's a little bit extra of holding it off. But I mean, that's more personal. You just kind of learn how to work the ball. I don't remember the last time I just had a standard any ball flight. Oh, that was so sweet. That felt so good right there. Another one right out the middle. It's an easy game. I mean, all games are easy. I've said this before. It's a game. It's easy. If you're a decently athletic person, it's easy. You just need the knowledge of how to do it. A big issue is this game is so oversaturated with everyone's opinion. And you notice, like, I could go so into depth with like the micro details of the swing, but I honestly don't think it's that important because what do I see? I see guys like Jim Furyk, Matthew Wolff. Then I see guys like Jason Gore coming inside and over the top, doing all these different things. Like, I don't think your exact positions are all that important. As long as you can get to impact, you can get to impact and deliver that club in a downward angle. But what the things I talk about are consistent with good golfers. You're never going to see a good golfer that just swings back like this. I didn't use any shoulders. That's all arms. Normally, if my shoulders were swung this far back, my club's only here. You see, I'm turning my body back. If I were to do my arms like I just did, I would be like here. Maybe a John Daly. I don't even know how he does that, but I mean, there's always a few exceptions. That's a little crazy. But even John Daly, he practices all his chips and all his short game one handed. And with all his shots, he feels exactly what I feel like so many great players. It's just boom, it's in that lead hand right here. Your wrist, your arm, your whole lead side is just boom, it's a wall. Compression City. That's where you hit everything with. Your right hand's there for stability and to guide the club, and it gives a little bit of a extra speed. But if you really want to be consistent and hit the ball hard, you want to pull, 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 like pulling a trailer. It's so stable to pull. Pushing is very unstable. It's wild. And honestly, pushing a lot of times you can hit it fat, you can hit it thin, you can top it. You can do also, you can scoop it. A lot of bad things his ball's broken, but a lot of bad things happen when your right hand comes into play too much. If anything, I like to feel like my whole left lead side just stays square, 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 square. It all starts with a nice grip, of course. I've talked about that. Square, square, square. Maybe let it bow, let it shallow a little bit to counteract things. But as far as right hand feel, very light in the grip, and just, if anything, just let it tuck. Just let it tuck and just glue against the side. Because a big issue is people get very out here with it. They start to throw their right arm. That's trouble. If anything, you want to get here and just feel it tuck. Like Ben Hogan, he used to wear holes out in his sweater, they'd say. Then you can just turn into it. Kind of pulled that, but it was flush. My back's really hurt, guys. I haven't played in many days. I'm still hitting the ball flush, though. Got to admit, for someone with a herniated disc who can't even put his socks on right now, and there's no pain. None of these swings have caused me pain. Because I'm just keeping my spine in that neutral position. And even that swing there, that was just a chip. That was an easy 120, 125. That big ball mark in the middle is just getting, a little denser. You can see I hit one or two a little thin, but that's where your consistency comes from. It's the big muscles in your swing. Big muscles in your swing. Of course, this is a wedge. Any clown can hit a wedge decent, but maybe not that consistently. It's still such a great thing to be able to hit a wedge. And if you're just starting, honestly, I would start really small and just work on, getting the club come back. As the club's, right after you start your backswing, club's not even halfway back yet. Like right off the ball, you might be shifting just a little bit. Oh, actually, somebody asked me about this. Let me shift topics just a little bit. So someone mentioned they have a problem swaying off the ball. So generally what swaying off the ball is it's an issue with two things. It's as opposed to turning. I just feel like this butt cheek, this pocket is basically going straight back, It's straight back. It's not a linear thing. I feel like a lot of people try to get very linear with it. But also what happens is people probably have a problem slicing it. So they feel like they need to hold the club face closed more than they actually do. If you try to hold it closed, you end up kind of sliding to hold the club face closed. Because you feel like if you rotate open, if my hip goes back, it feels like the club's going to rotate open. But I just promise you, if you can start with a good grip, a good setup, and just turn everything. Again, this is my club face. This matches my club face. If you can just not let I don't want to do this. I don't want to leave my chest behind and use my arms. If you can just turn with your chest, you can even do this. You can see how, this matches my club face. That's perfectly square. And I'm just landing into my front foot, into that front foot, into my front foot. If anything, you will just want to always be moving forward, downrange. You could set something up. I've seen people. Here's some zip ties. I've never actually tried this because I've never really had a problem swaying off the ball. But if you set up a little something like this, if you were to sway off the ball, you would knock that over. You could use an alignment. Oh, that hurts. You could use an alignment stick in the dirt or something. But, you really just want to be like, I'm sure you've heard this before. You always want to stay to the inside of your trail foot. Done properly, I shouldn't knock this over at all. Nope. Well, I don't want to swing too much because, like I keep saying, my back is very, very sore right now. It's the hospital yesterday getting an X-ray. I'm kind of pissed because an X-ray doesn't really show a herniated disc. I need an MRI, so I had to call back today. They're like, "Oh, your insurance doesn't cover an MRI without trying physical therapy first." And I'm like, I went to physical therapy like 5 or 6 years ago for this already, like, and I've been doing it consistently. It's not like I'm fucking out of shape. I work out and do physical therapy to try to make myself feel better, specifically for golf and skateboarding every single day. It's not physical therapy that I need. Anyway, keep it real, keep it metal. Peace.